Do you mind? Thank you so much.
Much.
Would you perhaps like to chant something at the beginning of the interview?
Oh. Shuklam Bhartaram Vishnam Shashivanam Chatubhujam Prasannavatanam Chayet Savaivignam Prashantaye Guru Vyasta Namo Bhakamadeemahe Pranimahe Chatat Rajo Dampati Jagadampati Sri Guru Pyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Please introduce yourself.
Oh. I am Mark Whitwell, and I'm very happy to be visiting Europe and Zagreb and basking in the healing waters of the Adriatic Sea. Thank you. I'm from New Zealand. It is very similar to my own place here. It's a beautiful, beautiful earthly paradise. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm glad you could come. Tell us something about your history of yoga.
As a young boy, I was fascinated with yoga. The Beatles had gone to India, Rishikesh, with their guru. And as just a young man, young teenager in New Zealand with the usual sort of middle class life, the offerings in university and this and that, it didn't seem like quite enough. So off I went to India to find my teachers. So
How old were you?
20. I first went to India when I was 20, actually 19 for a brief time, returned again a year later.
And how long did you stay in India?
I stayed a year and a half, second visit, a year and a half. I went to one famous ashram called Ramana Ashram, the home of Ramana Maharishi, at Tiruvannamalai, at the holy mountain in South India there in Arunachala. And there I met a young man, Douglas, who took me to Desikachar in Madras and started studying.
And how did you study yoga with Desikachar?
One-to-one, like this, question answers.
Okay. What was it like to study yoga with the renowned master Tirumalai Krishnamacharya?
Ooh. Well, I didn't study with Krishnamacharya. I studied with his son. But Krishnamacharya was in the home where I would visit once a day for an hour time, in the same room where Desikachar had his lessons with his father. I would study. And it was lots of fun.
How did you pay for the instructions?
Rupees. Not so much in those days. Nothing.
Okay. And why was this yoga of Krishnamacharya and his son Desikachar so helpful to you?
Because it was very practical. Also because it was very learned. In my understanding, they had the technical matters of yoga very well worked out from Krishnamacharya's study, a lifelong study with his teachers. He was born into a family of great teachers, and then went further from his family and found great teachers in Benares and in Tibet, Himalaya. And he was very practical in his approach. So it wasn't just what is yoga, it is how do you do yoga. And that's, as a young man with my own quest and my own health issues at the time, they addressed them in very practical ways. You know. We ate food on the kitchen floor, you know, on the concrete floor, and shared meals together. And they weren't at all like these great gurus with their status and their hierarchy. They were simple, straightforward people, and it was easy to enter into good relationships and clear communications and ask the questions. And they weren't doing a Swami religious or guru game. They were just scholars of yoga and practitioners of yoga. So it was easy to acquire information.
Yes, I understand. And you also met there J. Krishnamurti and U.G. Krishnamurti.
In the same time frame as 1973, in that they were giving talks in Adyar, in Madras, and in Bangalore.
And what is your relationship with these two great men?
Well, just that they were and are great men, and that U.G. is still alive today. And I think they had clarity of teaching, especially U.G. as it's developed. So great men, but ordinary men, real men, people who you can talk to, and that you don't have to be in a sort of higher and lower type of relationship, but in equal relationship. You have a good talk, thrash things out, in a practical way, in a personal way. And this is what I learned most of all from, especially from U.G. Krishnamurti, is the ordinariness of a true life.
After years of study, you also formed the Heart of Yoga Association. Why did you do that, and how did you do that?
Well, the book that we had done, Desikachar and I, is called The Heart of Yoga, and I love that name because it was the heart of yoga. The heart of yoga is the friendship between a student and a teacher. And I had students or friends all around the world, and it just seemed right to loosely bind these friendships together in a communication network. So we formed that as a non-profit organization, the Heart of Yoga.
Tell us something about the unknown masters that you also met in India and that inspired you so much, especially about the teachers of Tantra Yoga.
Well, these were meetings that occurred mainly in the north of India. I certainly spent time with a Swami Muktananda, who was the student of Nityananda, the great Nityananda, who died in 1961. And in that environment of yogis and teachers, I met some extraordinary people who were not known even then as gurus or teachers, and have never been known as gurus or teachers, but were humble men living a life and practicing their devotion, their life in that environment. And I certainly met these folk and received a lot from people through a nod, a word, an explanation, a day, a week, some time together, and just feeling the quality of a yogi, capital Y, what a person is who is a yogi.
So what is the essence of your approach to teaching and practicing yoga, and why is the breath so important in your teachings?
The essence of yoga, and I hope I'm teaching yoga, is to allow a person, the practitioner, to be intimate with their life. So that is the essence, to give practical practices that a person can actually do, that allows that person to feel intimate with their life, with the whole body, and with the breath of the whole body, which is this magical aspect of our life, is the breath that we have available in the whole body.
Yes.
So to give those in a way that a person can actually do, not in any linear struggle of trying to get somewhere as if they're not somewhere, capital S, capital W, but allow them to be to deeply connected, to feel the life that is in their living system. in the polarities of above and below, inhale, exhale, left and right, front and back, male and female. And then of course comes this great wonder of life, which is the outer polarity, our relationship to our own experience, to each other, especially and including intimacies with each other.
I understand. All the principles of your yoga, or yoga as such, have been precisely described in Desikachar's The Heart of Yoga. And you wrote your own Yoga of Heart, the healing power of intimate connection. What is the connection between the two books, or in which way is your book different from Sri Desikachar?
Well, the connection is simply my involvement in both books. You know, that I helped Desikachar put that book together and collaborated and pulled notes together from various sources, especially this book called Religiousness and Yoga, which was an early book that Desikachar did from Colgate University, from a series of lectures there. But there were other people's notes that had been taken from talks and different times of study with Desikachar, especially two excellent students, doctors from Berlin, who had done a German translation of that book. And so it was a team effort, but I synthesized it down, you know, on the computer, crisscross, this out, this in, you know, and worked with the publisher to put that together, and wrote some introductions and some special interviews with Desikachar to form the themes of the book that I felt were particularly relevant at the time. Prior to 95, the year 1995, there was no good public book that described, or no book that was actually accessible, available around the world, that described the teaching of Krishnamacharya as Desikachar had interpreted it. So I felt it was very needed in the world to do that, and I asked Desikachar, shall we do this book? Yes, please, do it if you can. So it was a task of love and commitment, I think, to the public mind, to social change, to put this information, because what I saw was many things were being popularized as yoga, like gymnastics, you know, spiritual gymnastics, physical gymnastics, that I felt were really exploiting the gullibility of people. And this great knowledge that Krishnamacharya had, I saw was not available. There was no access to it in any media form. So I was quite passionate about getting that together and getting a good publisher who would really put it out around the world. And since that time it has gone around the world. It's become a major asset to yoga, for yoga aspirants. So from that point I found it a good idea to then write entirely my own expression of yoga. So there is a relation to heart of yoga, yoga of heart. You know, they are linked words, and there is a significant link, because certainly the yoga that I teach is the yoga that I've learned from the great students of Krishnamacharya, Desikachar and Srivatsa Ramaswamy, who's also written a wonderful book called Yoga for the Three Stages of Life. And these two books, The Heart of Yoga and Yoga for the Three Stages of Life by Srivatsa Ramaswamy, who studied with Krishnamacharya for 33 years, who I've subsequently spent good time with, they are jewels, they're diamonds in this world. And that they really explain what is yoga from Krishnamacharya's scholarship and their scholarship with him. However, I find it necessary to then contextualize it into entirely our own Western background, you know, where I am not a Brahmin male. I am a New Zealander. You know. Most of my spiritual and religious and environmental inspiration comes from Polynesia and comes from Western scholarship. As a a young Western person inspired by the wonderful changes that have gone on in Western societies since the 60s, which I was born into. And I think it's very pertinent and necessary to put this universal teaching of yoga into the context that I am in, that you are in, and speak of it from there. So it becomes entirely useful to people. Be very clear that we don't have to become Vedic in our background. We don't have to be, certainly we don't have to become Hindu. We don't have to become Brahmins. We don't have to become male. We don't have to aspire to some linear process to get somewhere as if we're not somewhere. And this is the essence of my book, Yoga of Heart, is the explanation and understanding that it is so simple, is that truth is not absent. That's all. And if we want to reinterpret that as God is not absent, because if that's in our language that we're using, God is not absent and does not have to be found. However, the themes of this religious mind that has permeated the world and created societies is that God or truth can be found through process, through hierarchical participation, through agency, and through the discipline of the various agencies that are offered in doctrinal mind. And I want to reveal that as the problem. That is the problem itself. The idea that truth needs to be found implies that truth is absent. The idea that God needs to be found through some hierarchical agency or any method or any discipline. And societies have been built upon that assumption. It's ingrained in us. That idea is the problem. And my teacher, Yuji Krishnamurti, says yoga starts when that problem is seen and understood, when that is undone. The idea of needing to look for truth. That yoga is the participation in the given, right? Capital G, not an effort in the body or mind to try to get to the proposed social ideal called God or enlightenment. That's a vast, pervasive cultural mistake that's got everybody busy trying to get high as if this is low. And the whole thesis of my work in Yoga of Heart is, and it's certainly stated again and again in the ancient yoga tradition, that yoga is the embrace of the seen condition. It's the embrace of your experience, or the merge with your experience.
And not an escape from relationship.
Totally got it. To absorb, all related condition as the truth, as the facts of life. It may well be in that absorption we become aware of some vastness that is forming the seen condition. But the fact is to know the unseen, or what we might call God, is via the seen, via the tangible relatedness, the base of the body and the relatedness this way of my body's relatedness to all its experience, the embrace of that. So then we do not separate the seen from the unseen in this false dichotomy that religion creates, that diminishes the seen and diminishes the male-female polarity and diminishes the feminine, into a nothing, into something, a blandness that we suffer, that men suffer, that women suffer. It's the denial of life,
I understand. So this is the reason why we should be anchored in the heart while alive in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain a little bit what is actually this heart you're talking about?
It's the merge of all aspects of life. When we understand there's no left, without right. There's no such thing as a left.
Right.
It comes with right. See, then there is the whole, then the heart is realized. See, here is the heart realized, the end of duality. I am left and right. I am male and female. I am above and below, which is particularly relevant in Hatha Yoga because it's strength receiving.
Which is already the case.
Which is already the case. See, that's why I say there's merely or sheerly a participation in the given condition. When we realize there's no inner without outer, there's no male without female, there's certainly not me without my mother and father. See, this is how spirit takes form, how heaven comes to earth, how this form comes into the scene. So it's via the scene, the participation in all these polarities, including and especially the outer polarity, that allows me to know the union that is already the case. And that's what we call the heart, or the Hridaya, the Hridaya Yoga Sutra, and that's explained in the Hridaya Yoga Sutra. So then we can naturally, in a very natural way, so actually and naturally, perceive that the wave is not separate from the ocean. You know? Yeah. Sure, I'm not the ocean, but I'm a wave of the ocean, you know, that's here because the ocean is here. Without the ocean, without the source, there's no me. You know? Without the spirit, there's no me. Without my mother, father, without the sun, there's no me. Without, you know? And this is already utterly, deeply in place, including, if there is, the vast one that we call Ishvara, Lord, the one who lives all beings, you know, all stars, the cosmos. I'm here because it's here, you know.
It is so obvious, but most of us still suffer from the trauma of separateness, as we put it. Why?
Because it's been forced into the social mind by doctrine. Doctrine is a power mechanism, and you so clearly, we're still trying to thrash this out in the world of politics today, where the idea of exclusive access to God or truth through agency is used as a power mechanism. So it's been deeply asserted into the public mind by power systems. So whether we're presently in those hierarchical systems of thought or not, doesn't matter. That's what our society has been formed on. We grow up in that.
How can yoga help us?
By the intimacy with life that doesn't depend on those systems of thought. See, if I take a breath, inhale, exhale, then I'm with my life. I'm with myself, and I'm with the extreme intelligence that is life, that beats my heart, that moves my breath, that helps me to move life to life with a clear mind and be connected to somebody I am biochemically attracted to, and the energies that move in that. And that lifts off the mind, you see. That lifts off this mind of me trying to get to God as if God's absent. But that mind has been put in us so deeply, so aggressively over thousands of years now, so insidiously so. You know, you must be dutiful to the system, to the guru, to the pope, to the priest. You know, this absurdity, if you want to get to God, give up sex. Like, oh my God, who came up with that? Who even came up with the idea that God is absent and needed to be found? You see? And the asana tradition that grew from wisdom culture in ancient times had nothing to do with that. Those doctrinal systems that developed later in history. Even the idea of the holy personality developed later and was grabbed upon as a power mechanism. See, yoga existed in a time prior to that, you know, which was how we, as individuals, as ordinary folk, participate in the given, capital G, you know, in the perfection which is life itself, in the extreme intelligence which is life, that's upon us, that's in us, as us, that beats my heart, that moves my breath, that moves me life to life to create new life. that power is with us, and my yoga, your yoga, is merely or sheerly each person's participation in that. And that lifts off that previously encrusted mind, this conditioning that I am less, that I am separate from the ocean, and that I need to do something strenuous or heroic,
To become whole.
or violent on myself, or some absurdity like giving up sex, trying to get close to God. And that's still sold in the marketplace, shoddy spiritual goods sold in the marketplace to innocent young men and women, to the gullible public, who then want to go off and join the monastery and so forth. You see, in the United States, where all this sex scandal has occurred in the Catholic Church, there's no one asking the question, perhaps it's not a good idea that the priests give up sex. No one is very seldom among the priesthood, among the public, or among media people, have anyone asked the question, if you're a good person and you want to serve your community, and you're 16, 19, 20, whatever the age, and you maybe I'll go to the church. See, this is what's offered. This is what's sold socially as being a worthy thing to do. So off you go, and they take your sex from you, your life from you, and 20 years go by, and you're suddenly fondling the little boy in the choir, and you don't know why you're doing it. It's a sickness that's arisen because of this crazy idea. It's like asking someone not to breathe or something. It's so fundamental to life, the male-female polarity, the union of life. So no one's saying, perhaps it wasn't a good idea to ask, Father to have given up sex as a young man. So you see the obviousness to that. It's a crippling assumption, and furthermore, it's created a hierarchical system in our society where all the good stuff is happening in the monastery. The juice, all the heroes, from the thousands of years now in Europe and America, more recently. If you're a heroic, wonderful, true person, you'll drop this life away and you'll go to the challenge of the prayer, the meditation, the insights, the philosophy, the obedience to the great power, to the monastery. If you're still a villager and you're in your downtown still having sex in a family, you are less. You are less than those great ones. See, so it creates this hierarchical thinking in our world, where the ordinary household life, the ordinary person, is diminished in value, in perceived value of him, herself, and others, and there's still in this sort of the sex negativity. There's something wrong if you still want to have sex. There's something less about that. See, this pervasive crippling of the bodily life, and it's got to be seen and understood and dropped. The mind of looking for truth, as if truth is absent, that habit of mind has to be simply understood. That's all. If you understand it, it's like a mathematical equation. The looking for truth is the denial of truth, is a mathematical equation. So do we have the courage to stop looking and start a life? Start a yoga, participation in the given condition of life. Intimacy with my own body and breath, and others and other, like that, in that order. First, this body, breath. Then, in time, in a natural way, of course, the movement of life to life. The participation in life.
Why is this order so important? Asana, pranayama, meditation, relationship. Why do you insist on this order?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say asana, pranayama, and relationship like that. That's a bit too technical. I'd just say body, breath, and relationship. Right? Sure. Asana, pranayama, body, breath. in that we must develop intimacy here first, strength receiving. See, inhale, exhale. If I'm sensitive to my own conditions of life, then there's a chance that I can be sensitive to another. If I can receive in a strong asana my inhalation, my feeling through the crown and the frontal line, there's a chance that I might be able to receive you. But if I can't receive myself, if I can't be sensitive to my own condition, there's not a hope in hell that I'll be sensitive to your condition. Now, so I'm just asking for ordinary folk a short 20-minute non-obsessive, natural but actual practice in their own time, in their own home of what I'm calling strength receiving, hatha yoga, the merge of the male-female aspects of our life. So that very quickly, it is people's experience that they can then begin to receive their experience, all experience, to not be in conflict with it anymore, to be sensitive to it, to be able to relate tangibly and sensitively to another person, including and especially, of course, intimate relationships, where it's deeply needed in our society now, because it has been deeply abused in very recent times and continues to be. We do not learn how to receive each other.
Yeah. So how do you practice your yoga now at 56?
I do a little asana, a little pranayama on a daily basis as I feel I need to. And, you know, like taking a shower, brushing my teeth, I just do it. You know, I don't think about it. I just do it. I love to do it. You know, strength receiving, inhale, exhale. You know, it feels good, and not as a effort to try to get somewhere, because I'm already somewhere. You see, as just participation in life, as life, and certainly not obsessive, because as soon as it becomes obsessive, then I'm back in that dark, insidious mind of denial, self-denial. You know. Yoga like this can be so abusive. You know, self-abuse. Meditation like this is self-abuse. You know, this aggressive, like working on yourself. It's very simple, very ordinary. It's like taking a shower.
Why do people miss that?
Why do they need that?
Why do people miss that? This
Because
fact.
because they're being sold shoddy bill of goods. You know, the whole spiritual game of creating solutions for people. See, the solutions create the problem, the idea of the problem. Trying to get somewhere, you know, as if you're not somewhere, creates the problem. So most of yoga, most of spirituality, most of the world of meditation, from what I've seen, is sold like that, as solutions, not participation in a given.
You see a change happening here. I think that something positive is happening in the world. Do you see some major change coming up in in practicing yoga in a more authentic way?
Yeah, well, I think it's great that yoga has been popularized. It's very good that these popular forms of yoga gymnastics have spread all around the world, and young people have responded, and they get, you know, they feel good prowess, you know.
Yeah.
And it's given a context to a more diligent conversation about what is yoga and how people do yoga. And I think, you know, as we get over the initial sort of novelty of yoga in the world, there's some deeper consideration going on. People are becoming more sensitive to what it's actually all about. Mm-hmm. And also people are getting, frankly, hurt by these activities, either sort of psychologically addicted or even sort of grossly injured physically. And so there's a turning to the greater query, a broader inquiry.
So this is why it is so vital to adapt yoga to the individual instead the other way around.
And see that a person actually practices. See?
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, the actual and natural practice of life, practice of yoga. See, and people do not understand what they're doing when they start a yoga practice, and often they're sold this idea of some extreme thing that they do on themselves, where they have to leap over a big hurdle every day.
Yeah.
Rather than understanding how it is a natural practice of strength receiving, and how, frankly, it is spiritual practice. People know how this can develop for them, how it can help them in their work life, their relational life, their sexual intimacy, and so on and so forth. What it actually does, and to teach as a friend to friend, not as a system, not cajoling people to get on a merry-go-round and sort of work away on themselves. That doesn't work.
So what's the right relationship between teacher and student?
Friend, equal, people. We're just people. You're a person, I'm a person. End of story. People who care for each other, who know a little bit about yoga, and who can help a person actually do yoga for themselves, just like you'd help a friend, like any friend would help a friend.
Yeah.
But try showering every day. See what happens. Like this.
Yeah. You also emphasize the various limbs or aspects of yoga. You do not advise people to practice just what is called the physical yoga, or the intellectual yoga, or you insist on the whole story. So what's the whole story?
Yeah, but in my view, there is no substitute for an actual yoga practice of asana and pranayama that is designed correctly for the individual. That's what Krishnamacharya called your sadhana, that which can be done, underline can. You can do that. See? You can't go into sublime states. You cannot meditate. You can make an attempt, but you can't do it. The mind struggling with the mind can't merge. You can't go into samadhi. You can't meditate. But what you can do is make the conditions right. So, in my view, there is no substitute for an actual program, natural and actual, on a daily basis, of right asana and pranayama designed correctly for the person. And this allows all the other aspects of yoga to occur.
But it is a fact that people, although they have their yoga almost perfectly adapted to their needs, they still have problems in maintaining regularity. And although they enjoy the positive effects of yoga, they still seem to have problems in realizing that yoga is a discipline and that it should be practiced on a daily basis.
Yeah, but no more so than a shower is a daily discipline. Having a bath. See, when you use that analogy, people go, I see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You mean I don't have to create an issue about it. I don't have to congratulate myself. Wow, I've showered every day for a whole week. We don't do that. We just take a shower. Or if you miss a shower for any reason, what do? You take it the next day. See, so natural and actual, no issue around practice.
So, do we have to practice yoga? And if we do have, in which way?
Well, the bottom line, the absolute answer to that question, do we have to practice yoga? No, you don't have to practice. Everything is utterly and perfectly given already. All your intimacies with life are already in place, including the male-female polarity, if you're fortunate enough to be able to live that, as the power of life itself. So, no, you don't have to do yoga. But if there is some health issue to be addressed, physical or emotional, or a relational issue or you feel somewhat isolated to any degree whatsoever, then yoga can help you. And then, anyway, once having been helped, why not do a little non-obsessive natural and actual practice?
It did help me, and I feel grateful to yoga, to what it has given me over the years.
Yeah.
One last question. Are you optimistic about humanity.
Yes.
And, yeah. Why?
Best of times, because these systems of doctrinal power that has crippled humanity and taken the feminine out of life and taken intimacy from life, including and especially the accord between man and woman, are being seen for what they are. It's being played out, you know. And we're planting seeds of yoga all around the world, from India to Ireland, you know, from Beijing to Australia. All over the world, you see, there's a sincere and actual interest. You know, and this equation is being felt. That looking for truth is the denial of truth. I am what I am as life itself. I'm not separate from the infinity that formed me, right? And I'm talking about my skin, my seen condition, my life. It's being felt. And the young, bright people around the world who are like so much finished with these old models of thought, and even those folk who choose to stay within their religious cultural structures, which I encourage. Why not? You know, we need community, we need leadership, we need good friends and family, and the resource of money that community provides. Stay in there, you know, and do your yoga and have a life and have some intimacy. And by that means I feel the heart of yoga, or the heart of life, the heart of religion is then felt, which is the love of life and the care for each other. You know, the deep caring of life for each other can be felt if we put this intimacy with life into the social structures that are already in place. You see, I don't have it in for the Pope. I love the Pope, you know, but as an individual, he is life itself, you know. But there's a vast cultural mistake being made that has been used as a power mechanism. And I think because of our separation of church and state, and the separation of the sacred and the secular, there's a chance now to see how inappropriate it is to use doctrine as power and force it. And I think there's now an environment where some intelligence can come into what I call the secular priesthood. The secular must serve the sacred. The priests must serve the intimacy between man and woman, the intimacy with life. And that can happen now. You know. To a degree it's happening. I see women in the Catholic Church who are yoga practitioners, and I say, see, you are the priesthood now. You're there, you know, planting the seeds in this, even in those contexts.
Yeah, I understand. So, can we say that the essence of yoga is to take a good care of ourselves, being intimate with our breath, our body, our relationships, and so to take a good care of all other people and all creation, just as the creation takes a good care of us?
Beautifully said.
Thank you. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for coming to Zagreb to share your beautiful and deep yoga teachings with us. And thank you for teaching me, and for being there for me when it mattered most.
Oh, good, thank you. And thank you so much for putting my book into Croatia. You see all these beautiful people responding to that.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Could we perhaps chant together Sahana Bhavatu?
Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Beautiful. Hope that worked. How did it go?